This is Monica Ohkubo, and I will be giving you an overview of Chapter 4, Channeling Students' Energies Toward Learning. All information in this presentation will come from Academically Adrift, Limited Learning on College Campuses by Richard Aram and Josippa Roxa. How do academic and social climates affect student learning? There is a large faculty role in student learning. Faculty with high expectations and high standards are associated with greater learning. Meeting with faculty outside of class about grades may not affect learning, but when students meet with faculty outside of class to intellectually discuss course material, Aram and Roxa have found that this may matter in terms of the Collegiate Learning Assessment scores. The Collegiate Learning Assessment, or the CLA, measures critical thinking, complex reasoning, and reading and writing. Faculty that require 40 pages of reading per week and 20 pages of writing minimum a semester make a difference, as this reading and writing requirement has been shown to increase CLA scores. You can see here how the higher the faculty expectations and requirements of reading and writing, the higher the CLA score shown on the left. Peer interaction, on the other hand, has not been shown to matter as much. High expectations of peers, helping peers, working hard to succeed as a group of peers has not been shown to be significant to CLA scores. Where does the time go? We all know that students do not have a lot of time and may not be exceptionally wise in how they use their time. You can see here that 51% of student time, according to Aram and Roxa, is spent socializing, recreating, and other, 24% sleeping, 9% working, volunteering, participating in fraternities, sororities, and student clubs. Only 9% is spent attending class and lab, whereas even a lower percentage of 7% is actually spent studying. Studying has been found to have a greater impact on CLA than extracurricular activities. Students spend on average 15 hours a week studying. Of their total time, about 1/5 is spent on academics, and 12 total hours on recreation. Studying alone versus studying with others produces a greater positive CLA score than studying with peers. This is an interesting point, considering the emphasis on less lecture and more collaborative activities in the classroom, such as group work and active learning. So it's just sort of a food for thought idea. And you can see with this diagram that studying alone has a positive effect on CLA scores, shown on the left. Studying with peers, you can see there's a decline in CLA scores, and we'll talk about this further in a moment, but fraternity and sorority involvement actually lower, the more hours spent on fraternity and sorority involvement, lower CLA scores as well, depending upon how much you're involved with those. Hours of on-campus employment up to 10 hours actually increase CLA scores, whereas if students go above 10 hours a week working on campus, there's no increase shown. The more hours spent working off-campus negatively affect the CLA. Overall, the authors warn, effects of employment depend on individual student characteristics as well as institutional differences. Here we are with the discussion of sororities and fraternities having a negative effect on the CLA. The more time spent, more hours spent with sorority and fraternity involvement, the lower the CLA. This study does not account for self-selection into fraternities, for example, individual circumstances where students end up in sororities and fraternities, so the authors wanted to make that known. Although students do report higher levels of satisfaction with the collegiate experience and personal growth when involved with sororities and fraternities, there is a negative impact on the CLA. Volunteering, similar to working off campus, has negative effects on the CLA. However, once individual and institutional factors were factored in, the difference was no longer significant. Social interaction may have positive effects on factors such as integration and persistence, but this shows us not on learning in terms of volunteering. Fields of study matter. Science and math or humanities and social science majors have higher scores on the CLA than those majoring in business or education and social work. When adjusting for academic preparation or social background, the differences do lessen, indicating that those from those backgrounds are advantaged in terms of academic preparation coming into college. Business majors are more socially advantaged than health majors coming in, but the difference lessens when these factors are accounted for. Once these factors are accounted for, it shows that health majors really do achieve because we have a level baseline. When we factor in institutional differences between science, math, and business, and engineering, computer science, and business, the differences are not statistically significant. Considering that the CLA measures complex reasoning, critical thinking, and writing, these findings lead us to ask, how much do we want critical thinking, complex reasoning, and writing to exist across our curriculum? The authors note that faculty within certain fields may play a role in the difference shown between fields of study, as different instructors may create within specific fields of study, may create different cultures of engagement. Students that rely more on grants and loans have higher CLA scores, therefore showing that students relying on grants and loans tend to learn more. Students that rely more on loans show no effect, the loans show no effect on CLA scores, and students that rely more on grants and loans spend more time working on campus, and remember that as long as they work less than 10 hours, CLA scores tend to rise with working on campus, but with greater than 10 hours, there's no effect. Students that rely more on loans spend more time working off campus, which according to the study could mean a drop in CLA scores, although not shown to be significant specifically when looking at loans. African Americans score lower on the CLA. They do spend less time in fraternities, sororities, rely more on grants and scholarships, and are more likely to major in a higher CLA scoring field, so we think they do all right. However, they do face lower faculty expectations and demands and less reading and writing requirements in their programs. When we adjust for the institution attended, this gap in CLA scores from African American and white students decreases by 15%, indicating that African Americans are disadvantaged based on institutions that do not promote complex reasoning, critical thinking, and writing skills. A weak argument does exist for this gap being due to the oppositional culture argument, which basically means that African American students are avoiding acting white, if you will. Aram and Roxa argue that skills, habits, and styles of African American adolescents are less conducive to academic success, which weighs in more than the oppositional culture argument. Stereotype threat could also be an explanation, and that is the fear of reinforcing negative stereotypes, such as academic failure. We can see here in this graph that there's a negative academic preparation of African American students coming in, or factors coming into college, have a negative effect on their CLA scores, and that college experiences as well as institutions attended do matter in terms of a negative effect on their CLA score gaps. Institutional variance does exist between institutions, across institutions. Qualities of higher performing institutions include students reporting more behaviors that promote learning, students taking courses that require that reading 40 pages a week and writing 20 pages a semester. 62% of students at these higher performing institutions reported this reading and writing requirement versus 39% average across other institutions. Students studied at these higher performing institutions on average 3 hours more alone, not with others, but alone per week. Institutions with higher than predicted graduation rates and student involvement rates showed more focus on student learning. For example, more faculty focus on giving feedback to students and feeling responsible for student learning. It is important to remember that there's a variation between, but also within institutions. High and low performing students exist across all institutions and can be looked at to see how to improve student learning. In summary, there are many factors that affect student learning, and these factors are complex and interrelated. Academic preparation affects learning in the first 2 years of college. However, the college experience itself, the institution, and faculty members matter. GPA is positively related to the CLA, meaning faculty are rewarding complex reasoning, critical thinking, and writing. The question is, how can we best teach and reward these skills? When students report high faculty expectations and at least 40 pages of reading and writing a week and 20 pages of writing a semester, the time spent studying increases 2 hours or more a week. Students' college experiences and institutions attended account for as much effect on the CLA as academic preparation. As current and future educators, we must remember, what happens leading up to college is just as important as the learning experience created in college. Thank you.